What would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same, but nothing you did mattered? It's where the Guardians are right now. Parker Messick gave them the start they needed. The offense, well, Cleo Watson showed up.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Comment below if you caught the reference in today's cold open. Parker Messick, he pitched like an all-star for the Guardians. The offense, all or nothing or all of nothing. Guardians fall 2-1 to the White Sox after Parker Messick gives them the performance I've been waiting for personally, at least from Guardians pitching during this offensive issues they're having with injuries and inconsistencies, all that kind of stuff. This is Locked On Guardians, your only daily Cleveland Guardians podcast that covers your team every day, from the majors, the minors, the draft, everything in between. We'll have, again, all of that covered on today's show. So it's not just going to be about the Guardians' loss. We'll have minor league updates. We'll have draft updates as well. We'll talk about some candidates for the 19th pick overall. We'll talk about some MLB Combine takeaways from Wednesday, or I should say Tuesday. We'll discuss some injury updates. And I think, Jeff, we have to discuss how we think about Parker Messick. And that, of course, is Jeff Ellis I'm referring to, who's been your host here for the show for the last 8 years. And I have been here, Justin Lada, for the last 4 with Jeff. We've both been covering the organization of the Guardians, the minor leagues, the draft for the last 19 years. Before we get to the loss, Jeff, I never would have expected this from Parker Messick as a prospect. When he was coming up, as he moved up, and we even had him on the show last year, when he was kind of, breaking out.
Getting better every year. That's what Parker Messick did.
He got better every year. He worked his tail off. I don't know if I wrote anything that would have led me to believe, or saw anything that led me to believe, that he was this kind of pitcher. Like, this is one of those guys where you put a ceiling on him and he exceeds it, and it's one of those things that's hard to imagine this happening with him. Here's what I said back in 2025. I said pitchability lefty with a sneaky fastball, good command, plus changeup, high energy, deceptive delivery. And I said, I think he's a back end starter / depth arm in this year. I said mid to back end rotation arm. Right now, he is the Guardians' best starter, point blank, period.
Yeah, it made me wonder. Hopefully this doesn't get me in trouble, but it made me wonder if maybe this is the market inefficiency that, if you've followed this team, if you followed us, you've heard me talk about this, but it's I remember seeing a lot of people not liking this draft pick just because Parker Messick wasn't sculpted, right? Like, so many guys are built anymore. And Parker Messick had a little bit of extra weight. People were not kind about it. Let's put it that way. And maybe there's just something about helping a guy maximize his physical tools, helping, what's already there. We so focus on how much guys can add as they age up and get older, but maybe sometimes it's just and it's, helping him maximize his pitches as he gets more fluid and everything else. And I think that's why we see such improvement every year. It's his body got more ready to handle the rigors. They worked with him on how to maximize everything. And then every single year, as he got used to throwing bigger workloads, it's just become second nature. And now you see a guy who is this team's ace and should be. I got to look at what McGonagall's done. I think he's rebounded a bit, but it's hard to sit back and say Parker Messick, where should he rank in the Rookie of the Year? It feels like he is no worse than second right now in this race.
Yeah, I mean, Bazzana's had a good few weeks here and there.
McGonagall, Bazzana, and Messick.
Yeah, I mean, DeLauter's out of it now because he's missed some time and he fell off a little bit. So he is really up there. It's unbelievable. This is one of those things where you sit there and you try to project and you try to think about all these things. And, I think they did take advantage of some inefficiencies, right? You said it's the physical tools. It's the deceptive delivery, I think, holds really strong here. I think it's the delivery. For a while there, Cleveland was trying to collect some of those arms that had the high over the top arm slot, like the James Karinchaks, as it were, the guys with that really high arm release. And now things have become a little more in vogue to have that lower release height, which gives the fastball a little bit more depth and makes it harder for pitcher or hitters to square up or see coming out of the hand. And it's easier on your arm too. You know, the high arm slot can get a lot of guys hurt. So that's why that's become more in vogue too. And that's one of the things they were interested in Tugboat. That's why his fastball in the minors so far has worked its velocity. But also Parker Messick, he threw 97. I think it was 97.6. So it wasn't quite 98. And I know the TV radar gun said 98 because it rounds up. Statcast says 97.6. But my goodness, like, not a fastball I thought he had in there. The last, we thought last start would be okay. He had like multiple days of rest because of a rain out, and they flipped the rotation around a little bit, so he had some extra days off. So we thought, okay, that's why he's throwing harder. But no, it's mechanical change. His delivery is just so in line and fluid right now, and he's moving all of everything towards the plate. I think he's an all-star. I think flat out, period. He is an all-star. I think it would be a joke. I mean, again, it's June 23rd. We'll see what happens. I was saying the other day, I think he's like a guy who could be an all-star for replacing somebody who pitches on the Sunday before the all-star game and they can't pitch, so he gets on the team that way. No, I think flat out, period, he's an all-star in his own right without any of that stuff, having to worry about any of that stuff. Jeff, he lowered his ERA to 2.67 today. His FIP is 3.15, so he's a little above it, but he's top 10 in Major League Baseball in WAR among pitchers. He's, I think he's top 10 in ERA now too, if I'm not mistaken. And he's definitely up there for, like I said, he's top 9 for rookie or for ERA now. Like, he's an all-star. He's 16th in FIP. He should have had a win. I know pitcher wins don't mean squat, but he should have had his 8th win today, the way he pitched.
Yeah, I mean, as we both stated, it's like he's been utterly fantastic, better than either of us could hope for. He continues to perform, and yeah, it's a lot of every single time he pitches, it's exciting. It's fun to see. It's really one of those things since peak Bieber. I don't think we've had on this team that type of guy where, to me, it's a bit of a can't miss situation where you're just excited to see how he's going to perform, and a lot of it is just how he's knuckled down and developed and all the work he's put in since he has come here and joined this organization, to take him from a guy who, I mean, some people thought was a bad draft pick at the end of the second round. Some people thought he was more of a third rounder. I had his college teammate higher than him, shows what I know.
Hubart. Yeah, I liked him
Hubart too, because he had a little more funk to him as a lefty. But I mean, I thought Messick was a guy who was going to be a 5, and he just continues to work. And they're really good at finding guys like this. It's not perfect. There's a lot of Tommy Maces. There's a lot of Doug Nincases as well with these picks in this kind of range, but they've had, I would argue, more success kind of with these guys after the first round with the college picks, which is why, I don't know. I kind of feel like you take they go with a high ceiling gamble in round swings, 1, big swings. And then round 2, they start to pull back a little. And then the comp pick, maybe in the third round, you'll see a few more of their gambles, and then it's pulled back. And then sometimes in the 10th round, you see the Jacob Zibbins of it, or the Mobleys. I almost said Catino Mobley. I know it's Chase, but for some reason, Catino Mobley is he's the only Mobley in my mind. I can't, that's not the first time.
Evan literally plays for Cleveland, Jeff. I know you live in Milwaukee.
Catino is the one that got, because back then I was all about basketball as a kid.
Yeah.
With those Houston Rockets. But I mean, I was a Cavs fan. It was all about the Cleveland, the basketball in that era. But yeah, it's it's going to be interesting to watch. We'll talk some more draft in today's episode. We'll talk about what didn't work, which is why I'm laughing, because it's like pretty much everything, and what did. And I don't know if we're going to have time for my rant today, but I definitely have some feelings about some of the poor choices made again in this game, some of the unnecessary moves and the like. So.
What would you say is the biggest thing you've learned from Parker Messick's success, or his development, the way things have been going? Do you take anything away as far as how we evaluate prospects, or
I mean, I do wonder about we're focused on, oh, this guy is rail thin, or this, it's like Mason Hickman, right? Like he was like 6'5", and it's like, oh, well, Cleveland's always great at adding velocity. Like I love the Mason Hickman pick. You can't always assume velocity just because the guy is tall and thin and hasn't added it yet. I do wonder if it's a thing about like maybe spotting a guy who you feel like maybe isn't in the perfect shape, because once you help that player get into better shape and get things, it's going to help their biomechanics. It's going to it's going to make everything get better. So I do wonder if, like, the same thing with Tugboat. Say what you want to say about Tugboat, but for a 10th round pick who was slightly under slot, the fact that he turned into a double, a guy who looks like, I do think Tugboat's going to pitch in the big leagues. I don't know as what, but I do think, like that's a success story for the draft. So I wonder if, like, Cleveland maybe sees this as a relative market, and because everyone else tends to be like, well, they're lazy or like they're not taking care of themselves. When it's like, it can be hard at that age. Get them in the pros, get a dietitian with them, and see what takes off. That's kind of where I am. I wonder if maybe they have found an inefficiency where this is a way to have more ceiling and growth potential.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I think about that. There's one key lesson for me that I took away from.
I can't wait to hear it.
Messick. Yeah, and I think there's what you're saying. There's some relation to a guy we saw in the combine today that was featured a little bit heavily if you're reading just surface articles. So we'll touch on all that. We got to touch on the Guardians' lack of offense. We'll talk about Cleo Watson. We'll talk about guys going on the injured list and off the injured list on the rest of today's show. Workplace chaos. We know everybody is trying to find the right fit, whether it's the Guardians or any business, as it were. That is where places like Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in you and really helps, because it's helping you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for, based on skills, based on experience, and also location too. And finding the right person can make all the difference. The Guardians, got Parker Messick building a winning team. They are still a winning team. They're at least a winning pitching staff. Parker Messick's been a huge part of that so far for them. And they didn't need Indeed, but I tell you what, if they can find him, I think Indeed can help you find a great candidate for your job. And, I think Indeed helped out here with Locked On Guardians, putting me and Jeff together, even though we already knew each other. That would have been something that came up big. So you want to spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates to check all your boxes. That is less stress, less time, more results for you, cutting through the chaos and using Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit. It's going to help you get the premium status for your job it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast today and support the show, saying you heard about on Locked On Guardians. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, it's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And as always, we do appreciate you making Locked On Guardians your first listen today, every day, wherever that it is you get podcasts. And if you want to commiserate about what's going on with the team right now, maybe you want some other fans to talk to and just vent, I get it. And there's good places to do that too. One of them is the Everydayer Club. And with Locked On Guardians, and that gives you access to the private listener Discord. And there'll be other fans of the Guardians in that channel, as well as Jeff, myself, listeners of the show. And you can also go to other teams' Discord channels as well, and any team you can think of that you really like, you can hang out there with other fans, and you get ad-free versions of the audio episode every single day. So go to LockedOnGuardians.supercast.com or check the link in your show notes. So I think the biggest takeaway for me, Jeff, from Parker Messick's success this year in development, I think it reinforces the idea that it can't happen for everybody, because some guys are who they are. But I think we need to remember that development continues to happen at the big league level. Like Parker Messick came up, and yeah, he was good at the end of last year, but like he's throwing harder right now than he ever has, harder than we ever thought he would. I think the rest of the pitches are still there, but he's still attacking. He's still that guy. It just, these things continue to develop, and guys can get better at the major league level. I'm not just saying, they're going to get better as they get older and more experienced, but like the development continues. You're learning new things. You're still working on your game. So like we have to remember when rookies are called up, like, yes, there is that rookie bump and there's going to be struggles. The league's going to adjust, whatever. But like, this is still a path where you can bring guys up and they can still continue to grow if they're the right prospect. And the Guardians have been mostly pretty good about identifying the guys that are ready to handle those challenges. Sometimes they are forced into calling up certain players. They don't have any other good options, and that's just who you have. But Parker Messick, they made the right call there. Like, we for sure thought Logan Allen would start the year in the rotation and Parker go to AAA. They made the right call, and they're benefiting from it right now, and at least in terms of pitching. And I agree with you. I think he is firmly in the rookie of the year. The rookie of the year stats are not updated yet through this game, but when they are, I expect he's the runaway favorite as far as pitching is concerned for rookies. He's at a 2.2 WAR. I'd guess that he probably went up. But let's see, what's he at right now?
McGonagall's at a 3.3. He's back up to a 134 WRC plus. So I mean,
Parker's at a 2.5 after tonight. Yeah, it is. It is going to be hard to catch,
especially because he's doing that at shortstop. And like, I wonder if he might, because Bobby Witt had that slow start. I'm curious to see where he ranks in terms of shortstop.
Well, Bobby Witt's also hurt right now too. I mean, the other thing is, though, I will say
Bobby Witt is a 4.4 WAR. Kevin McGonigal is at 3.3 with positive defensive metrics.
Yeah.
Otto Lopez is third. CJ Abrams is negative metrics. Then Ellie De La Cruz, and 6 was Colson Montgomery, who we saw today. Can you 8 is Gunnar Henderson, 9 is Ezekiel Duran, but he's not a shortstop. 9 Perdomo, 10 Dubon. I skipped 7 because it's who do you think it is? It's Rocchio.
Interesting. I will say McGonigal doesn't have like sexy counting stats, which sometimes do apply. Like the WAR is good, but he's got 6 homers and 9 RBI, which is fine. But like sometimes the voters will look for more like I said, sexier counting stats.
Did and Parker Messick 9 RBI instead of
9 steals.
And stolen bases. Yeah.
Yeah,
because someone's going to comment. That's the only reason I knew what you meant. But I can already see the comments being written up below.
Yeah, but he's got a fantastic ERA. He's got a solid FIP, the WAR. So I still think he's going to be in the race throughout the year, and hopefully the Guardians can win. And the Guardians,
I think it's going to be McGonigal going away because he had all the name value going in. People are going to forget
that's another thing too is name value hype. It really stinks. But I'm going to watch guys differently now going forward as far as pitching is concerned. Like, do they have the potential to add more velocity than they have? And I think the thing to look for too is the delivery. Like Parker Messick, he had decent college numbers, but he's a traits guy. Like he's literally a traits guy. Like you're talking about.
And he always has some funk and deception, which I think is hard to.
And that's a big thing to look for now. Yeah. So you can't always look at college performance. You have to look at traits too. So that's another thing I will look at going forward. Congrats to Cleo Watson, his first career home run. That was an electric swing, by the way. 85-mile-an-hour swing. We know it's in there. He hit the ball, what was like 104 or something, or 107 off the bat. I know I put it out there, but I can't remember the top of my head without going back to look at it. But that was an electric swing for him. So that was pretty awesome to see for him. 104 off the bat. He crushed it. Had the big hit on Monday night, and he also had another hit in this game. So, it's nice to see him settling in a little bit, or at least finding some success. Hopefully that gives him some confidence going forward to be better. Wish the other part of the offense had showed up. Like Bazzana and Manzardo had multiple chances to drive runs in. You went to the bench to get David Fry to try to do something against the lefty. He did not. That's just where they are right now. They can get guys on, but they can't get the big hit for the most part. So unless Bazzana and Manzardo are homering, like you don't have enough offense, which is where they've been for the last week.
Like they're 0 for 6 with runners in the scoring position. It's a tale as old as time right now. RBIs are a beast. But and then if you look like 2 outs, runners in scoring position, that happened twice for Manzardo and twice for Rocchio and once for Bazzana. It's like the 3 guys you need to count on were just not there today. They didn't do their jobs. And Bazzana had, in some respects, this might have been the worst game he's had in a month. Like, he was expanding the zone, doing pressing, it looked like. At least with Manzardo, he did get a walk, and we know he's hurt right now. We know that's part of the issue. Like, he's got a back issue. It's nice to see him in the field, but we know he's not 100%. And then Rocchio, he has this has been him this year. Like, yesterday was a multi-hit game, and then he's a little bit like all or nothing to varying degrees. But they needed their guys to step up with all the injuries. And the big 3, the 3 pillars that they need right now, didn't give them anything. So it's no surprise that they only end. Plus, both of the games in this series, they've had more base runners than Chicago. They've had more opportunities than Chicago. They should have won both of these games by the metrics like that I do in my silly little box score bingo. And they haven't because they're not executing. And, they're the minute guys get on base, it's a struggle. And I was telling you this off air. I'm just going to go ahead and bring it up now. Like, I don't understand this whole platoon switching thing, because Stuart Fairchild comes up and He swings
He's
at
hoping to walk.
well. The crazy thing is like the borderline pitch he swung at, the one that was like the second strike, and then he watches a clearly in the zone one and doesn't swing. Like the one that wasn't even close, the one that was borderline, you took, and it's inside on you borderline, which is a really hard pitch to make contact with, and then that you swung at, and then I mean at some point, David Fry, I think we have to address the elephant in the room that David Fry may not be a major league player. That, you know, you look at his first 2 months when he was okay this year, he's rocking 360, 350 BAT pips. The one time he had a good stretch, he was rocking like a 420 BAT pip. It was ridiculously high. He's not hitting lefties at all this year. His expected slug, his expected batting average, his hard hit rates, like as much as, you know, Vogt loves and trusts him and keeps putting him high in the batting order, he's not giving you it. He's not paying off. He's not helping you out. And I think platoons are a good thing. I do. And I know a lot of people out there who are mad at me with that. I don't think platoons are a good thing when you're using Fairchild and Fry. Like, and it's really hard to have a good right-handed platoon bat because they play so irregularly. And even guys who have been great, aka Rob Refsnyder, who you and I both wanted badly, has been terrible this year. Like, it's kind of hard to judge. Like, you know, it's a situation where, you know, it's why a Brandon Guyer or Ryan Rayburn, even though Ryan Rayburn was a classic every other year type, like, we're so valuable because you could be like, okay, he's going to at least be league average. Heck, Nathan Lukes, the guy they traded for, is I'm sorry, he might be a lefty though. Now that I think
he is a lefty.
Yeah, but so it's different when you're a lefty platoon part because you get to play more, significantly more. But it's hard to find. One of these episodes coming up, I will try and dig super deep and see who's out there. You know, I think the one guy who could be available before the deadline, and I don't know even if I like this guy, but has pretty good platoon splits this year, is another every other guy, and that's Casey Schmidt with the Giants. Like, that might be a discussion because that is the one team that's talking about getting themselves in position to sell. Like Schmidt and Lee stand out as guys on that team.
Yeah, you need the right fit. I mean, it's great that David Fry can catch and play the outfield and play first base or third base or whatever. But
he rarely does for them. It's like only emergency situations.
That's true. Well, now they have Bailey. Yeah, they really, because now it's a platoon between Hedges and Bailey because Bailey doesn't hit well from the right side. Yeah, he doesn't hit well from the left side. It's better from the right, or better from the left. But
I would rather have Schneemann in. Occasionally, he comes up with a big hit, has a big moment. And you're hurting your defense when you make that switch over. And then Newcomb just, I mean, he lit up this team.
You know who did come through for the White Sox?
Chicago bullpen to recover.
You know who did come through in this game, though, for the White Sox was Grandal Grichuk. He doubled, and that allowed the White Sox to score the first run of the game off of lefty Parker Messick. See? Grandal Grichuk, two games in a row as a platoon hitter, has helped the White Sox to win a game. And, again, he was waived, cleared waivers. Guardians could have picked him up for the league minimum after he cleared waivers, and
see, I do wonder if he wouldn't have even wanted to come here because the situation, Chicago, there was a clear pathway to playing time.
There is here too. It's no different. Like he's not playing any more in Chicago than he would here. He's not playing against righties in Chicago. It
would not have been a clear pathway because we had Hoskins and like that kind of, and they're committed to David Fry.
Well, that's still the Guardians' fault for not seeing him as an.
I mean, you had to give. I mean, at the time, Fry was actually playing pretty well because of the better fit. Like they were, you know, they.
Well, I'm still talking about the offseason. I'm still saying the offseason.
Well, I mean, in the offseason, like Hoskins, in terms of bat, had a hitter who was more.
But it wasn't a good positional fit.
They just went for the highest upside for a hitter, which is what they needed to do, which we're still needing to see. It just hasn't worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree. I still would have, and even without hindsight, I still would have probably picked Grichuk. Not that I was against the Hoskins signing, but I still would have preferred Grichuk. All right, we have to get into guys who might be returning from injury, guys who are going on the injured list. And I know we want to get into some combine and draft talk, so we've got much more to go on the rest of this episode to get away from that loss on Tuesday.
ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. HIMSS offers simple, convenient ways to take care of your health by connecting you with a licensed healthcare provider online, giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of home. No more awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process designed to make getting care easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and Hims makes this process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. Speaking of schedule and comfort, it'd be nice if the Guardians maybe contacted Hims, because their bats are broken. They have bats that don't work. Their bats are feeble, and they are definitely some limp wood. So Cleveland's Guardians should contact Hims right away to fix their problem with wood and restore some solid lumber to their lineup. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/LockedOnMLB. That's hims.com/LockedOnMLB for your free online visit. hims.com/LockedOnMLB. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is a generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC. Hims is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris.
And if you want to make business systems work better together, you want to check out Odoo. Odoo is the place you want to go to get everything to work together, whether it's your marketing stuff, your accounting apps, they all work together. If they don't talk to each other now, Odoo is how you're going to get them to work together to make things much more efficient, all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together. It's a one easy-to-manage platform, works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized on the go, growing your business instead of managing each individual piece of software. The Guardians, they're managing individual pieces. They're down some big individual pieces, but right now they just don't. Everyone's trying to work towards the same goal, but right now they don't have the pieces that fit at the moment. So that's true in sports, like it is in business, unfortunately. Great organizations win because operations matter. Getting it right matters. That's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Do all the good stuff and make sure that you are auto downloading all your favorite audio platforms and hitting the bell on YouTube so you get notified of all of the videos that we post every single day. Because you want to know what? Even when the Guardians offense doesn't show up, Jeff, we show up every single day to talk about it. We are as exasperated as everybody else when they lose games. I've
been on the injured list as long as all their other guys have been. I'm still here every day, even with a bum knee. So I understand their pain. Not only did that injury grouping take out the entire team, it took out one of the people who report on the team. It's just universal.
That wasn't the same day, was it?
It was just about.
Was it last Saturday?
I had my first twinges of an issue on Tuesday, and then by Wednesday I had the full-blown knee issue.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're all trying to stay. We're all just day to day here. That's just what we are. We're all day to day. So make sure you hit the bell on YouTube. We're here every single day talking Cards ball. Let's get to some injury updates. So the big crux of the conversation I wanted to get to here was first, unfortunately, Andrew Walters is back on the IL in AAA. He has right elbow. I think they just called it soreness. What did I say it was? They called it. It was right elbow discomfort.
Whatever. Which is normally like good. I'd say half the time it means like surgery, and half the time it means a long time break. It's just
unfortunate.
Yeah,
it is what it is. This is why you have to go out in the offseason. Everyone's like, oh, DFA this guy and bring this pitcher up and DFA. It's like, this is why you do those things, why you sign guys and you try to hold on to your depth as long as you can. That's why Connor Brogdon was here as long as he was. That's why, they needed Colin Holderman, and people were like, well, he's hot garbage. And he turned into a really good reliever for them. And this is why you build this depth, because, you think that Walters is going to be a guy, and he's not. Or at least he's going to help you, and he's not, because he gets hurt. This is what happens. So the other thing I want to talk about too was the Chase DeLauter. The Guardians say they're hopeful he is ready to join the team again Friday when they come home from this 9-game road trip, which hopefully they can get one more win out of on Wednesday. They're off Thursday, mercifully. How much do we think DeLauter coming back, if he comes back Friday, can solve some of their problems?
I don't think he can.
He's got to be better than Petey Halpin.
But here's the problem. It's like, how much can he actually play the outfield? Like, or is he just the DH. And then like we talked about it, like I don't know, the week before he went on the disabled list, that over the 30 days before he went on the disabled list, he had a 46 WRC plus. Like his last 30 days he played. Now the last week he had a hit in every game, and he was making some solid if weaker contact. And he does walk, and like even what he was presenting, I just don't think it's a slam dunk. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near cure all to fix all wounds, because he was kind of scuffling. Teams had figured out the book on him, and they, like I said, a 46 WRC plus was kind of a little bit plus version of Halpin offensively for the month before he went down with injury.
But Halpin doesn't walk. Yeah. I mean, my question's it's not going to cure everything, but I'm saying it's got to be an upgrade no matter what, right? If he's back Friday, I know I almost would I think you keep Watson around when DeLauter comes back. I think you got, I don't know. I know they need a right-handed outfielder, but my God, I would just dump Stuart Fairchild. I keep Halpin. I know it's just, I don't see the value, but you know, I guess it doesn't really matter which one. Halpin has options, so I guess you can send him down, but he's got to be better than Halpin. I do worry, like long-term. I have no idea. I'm not a doctor, so like hairline fracture of a rib, couldn't tell you. DeLauter's injury history, like that all complicates things. And baseball is an extremely rotational sport, muscular wise and tendons wise. Like pitchers and hitters both need to rely on all their muscles that make you use rotational force. So it could be risky, but I don't know.
It is risky. There's no is. Yeah. It's risky.
Yeah. But I mean, he can't be any worse than Fairchild or Halpin. So if he's back Friday, I think at least helps him. It's not, like you said, it's not a slam dunk, but I think just even the presence out there, like teams, maybe they'll pitch around him, I guess, because it's like, why would we bother pitching to him? Because
I mean, I think they'll pitch to him because he hasn't. I mean, he wasn't hurting guys. Like like I said, he was struggling.
No, but like if you pitch around DeLauter and then you're
not going to put him on base to get to someone else because it's all not great anyways. You know, they'll pitch to him because there's a book and it's easy to follow.
Yeah. So we'll see, but I think it's not, you know, it's got to help a little bit.
It's a slight improvement, but it's unfortunately of the three guys who is hurt, he's the one who has provided the least over the last 30 days. And like I said, the last week there was some positive signs, but he was the least over the last 30 days of the three guys.
And you hope the time he's been out doesn't wreck that too. Like chances are he's not even going on a rehab assignment. Like he's just going to play Friday when they're home if things are looking good. So we'll see. We're kind of short on time. How much do you want to get into the combine or canvas?
Well, I want to at least bring up like one of the pitchers of the day from the combine. I think we got time. We had 3 ad reads. We're going to take about 4 minutes off the show. So we got 3 more minutes in here.
Okay.
So as I was watching the combine today and taking notes and going through all of it, one of the guys who stood out, and I think, you know, there's a logic to this as a name to know for Cleveland, is I want to make sure I get the first name right from my notes and everything else. And of course, me being me, I closed my tab. But Ethan Wachsmann, right-hand pitcher from Colorado. This team has a history of drafting, you know, like Clemmy was somewhere in New England, right? Wasn't he like Vermont or
Jersey?
Was he Jersey? I thought he was even farther north than that. But either way, you know, they've taken some non-traditional spots.
Massachusetts, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought he was New England. But you know, they've gone with some non-hotbeds, and Wachsmann just turned 18 this month. So he is young for the class. He is probably more of maybe a 3rd, 4th rounder. Maybe he's moved himself up after today, because not only did he touch 100 multiple times, he was sitting upper 90s, and it's the rare thing where he has the high velocity guy throughout the day, and he was the high spin guy throughout the day. So he had high spin rates, high velocity, you know, guys who have done that in the past. This is just one day of the combine, but names: Orion Kirkring, Jacob Mizorowski. Last year it was I had the name and I lost it. Robert Worley. I don't know if it was Robert Worley was the pitcher. Worey, I believe.
Don't know.
You know, and Wachsmann was a top 100-ish guy coming into the day. He was a known one. This wasn't quite crazy off the radar, but yeah, he's a guy who high velocity, high spin, just turned 18. has some secondary offerings, is raw. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, is a Colorado kid who doesn't get to pitch as much because of weather and everything else. But that's kind of their specialty when it comes to the prep ranks, is taking a guy who's more traits than anything else, who shows some things already.
Yeah, I mean, Doughty wasn't really a traits guy, but he was raw because in terms of
he hadn't pitched very long.
He hadn't pitched very much. I would, when it comes to guys like Wachsmann, I would, look at him and say he doesn't necessarily have some of the traits delivery wise. Like, he's 6'5", 220. I don't know arm slot wise how much he kind of. I mean, I guess it doesn't.
He's a high release.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily where they've been looking recently. Doesn't mean they've ruled him out. Like Doughty's a low. Doughty's got a very unique release. Clemmy had a very low release as well. So that's something I would probably look at and say that might not be their best fit. Like, I didn't have him on my. What I've been doing is a little bit different than you when it comes to. Draft stuff with them, as I try to go back and look at the types they've taken before and the things they're interested in.
It kind of reminded me a bit of Mobley and a little bit of Zibin as well, just in terms of kind of some of the raw traits and
I mean, some of the guys I had written down, like, you talked a lot about Jared Gridlinger. He fits that a lot in terms of what they've been looking for in pitchers. He didn't pitch today, but Carson Bowman and Coleman Borthwick have all been in there. Luke Williams didn't. I don't think he pitched today, but he hit, and that was kind of strange. Lucas Naraki.
I don't know. Everyone I know with Luke Williams thinks hitter, not pitcher. He's the only one I know who's been on the pitcher train. So I've always had him as an outfielder.
Yeah, I feel like he's on my list as a pitcher. I was really interested in watching Taj Marchand because everyone talks about how his swing is weird, and it's a little bit weird because he has a little hand drop, and but man, he hits the crap out of the ball.
His body's disconnected. He also had a lot of high launch angles. Like, both him and Bo Lawrence, it's like they had some of the best and some of the worst swings. Naraki is going to be a huge debate because some of his metrics,
pitcher or hitter,
his metrics as a pitcher are fantastic. Like, he should be a pitcher. He should not be a hitter.
I think so too. I looked at him today and I was like, I still think I'm on him as a pitcher. But Sean Dunlap was a lot of fun as a catcher. He looks like he's too big to be a catcher.
He was like 80% launch angles above 40 degrees. I mean, he was just behind everything.
Yeah, I liked how he got the ball. Like, he got the ball in the air. I think the swing to backspin the ball is there. Rocco Maniscalco was great on both sides of the ball. I mean, very quiet timing, load, great hands. I thought he pulled the ball well. I was impressed by what Marchand did. Trey Ebel, I was a little bit iffy on Trey Ebel before, and I think he's been really good. He had a good day, I thought, at least when I was looking at him. Tyler Spangler, I thought, looked pretty good for a guy who was rusty and didn't really play much this year. So a lot of fun stuff to watch there. And my guy, the catcher from Cincinnati, Jack Natilli, was a ton of fun to watch.
As well. I mean, we just know they won't draft him, right? Because they don't draft anyone from Ohio. And isn't he right-handed?
Well, Bennett Thompson, I mean, right-handed catcher.
But he was a day 3 guy. Like, they haven't taken a day. Yeah, Natilli's probably a second round guy. I don't think he gets out of the second round.
That's true. The way things went today.
Yeah, I think the other guy we have to mention, because people are going to bring it up, wasn't ranked in MLB's list, is Rintaro Sasaki. Man, when he took ground ball drills, it was about the worst thing I saw the whole day.
He's Daniel Vogelbach all day.
Yeah, he's a DH, a first baseman. He had some of the biggest exit velocities of the day. And then a guy you and I both kind of tagged as like a Guardians type of guy based on who they drafted last year was Caden Bogenpohl.
I like him.
I know, and he had a 119 exit velocity, which is just insane. But the weird thing is, Missouri State moved to a tougher conference this year. He didn't perform well. He was just kind of mid, which with a guy who has that high of tools on the throwing drills, he was throwing hard from the outfield. He needs some JT McGuire time. Like, he's got the arm. He just needs JT McGuire to make it work.
Hey, tools and traits, man. Tools and traits. That's what
he's a guy that is very much a Guardians type of guy. But the Rintaro Sasaki, they take a first baseman every year, and like Anthony Martinez was a bit of a more rotund first baseman last year.
For sure.
So they
like you said, maybe they help him with his conditioning, and he gets.
And his dad is a legend, so you want bloodlines. I mean, his dad's one of the greatest Japanese power hitters of all time.
All right, we'll come back. We'll talk Guards White Sox game 3. Hopefully the Guardians get a win in that one. You got Tanner Bybee and Eric Fetty. I wonder if the White Sox will try to use an opener because they've done that with Fetty before. We'll talk more about trades, the combine, the draft, deadline. We'll do a mailbag, all that kind of stuff. I know Jeff's got some mock draft to get to, so we're still talking everything.
Yep. I want to thank you all for joining us. Remember, rate and review, download daily. It helps. And go Guardians, go. Get like Woodchuck. Let's get the wood guys tomorrow. Actually show up with the bats.